Hello and happy Monday. Happy November.
Yes, we are in
Thanksgiving
San
month.
Diego.
We're in San Diego enjoying the nice sunshine
Oh,
for
yeah.
a quick a quickie again, a quick
A quick
72 hour.
quick little but then we're flying back on, like, the red eye not red eye, but it's the worst flying back from California because
Yeah.
you lose 2 hours anyways, so if you take, like, an 8 a.m. flight on Friday, you don't get back until, like, 10 a.m. 3 p.m. Chicago time.
Yeah.
So, we're flying back late Thursday night, which means we'll land at, like, midnight, but
But
then we'll at least have Friday to
yeah,
work
I
and
have
reconvene
clinical calls on
and have
Friday.
clinical calls.
Oh man, it's going to be good though. I'm excited. So if you have listened to the podcast for a while, we've talked about wanting to speak and, travel and do more speaking and educating, and having our event here was just another reiteration of how much we love doing that. And so we're going out to practice, if you will, crafting our story and stage presence, and just meeting other individuals and entrepreneurs that are also doing speaking engagements. So if you have an event or something that you're interested in having us speak at, feel free to always reach out. If it's a virtual event, we do a lot of things online as well, but um, this coming year, 2026, would be more along the lines of wanting to travel and speak at different
Mhm,
conferences and things like that. So we're excited. Always miss our babies though. So that's why I was like, we're getting back on Thursday night. I want to just come back home instead of another night
yeah.
in a hotel. So
Yes, agreed.
speaking of coming home and falling asleep and sleep in general and rest, we want to chat today about when you are waking up and what that might be telling you. And so there's a couple of things that we're going to discuss here in terms of various, reasons. But one thing that we do always like to reference is the Chinese medicine body clock. And this can kind of just walk through different times, how that relates with different organs in the body, and then also emotions, and kind of other symptoms that you could be looking for, as well as some tips. So we'll talk through that in this as well. But then we're going to talk about some other things that are not discussed with the Chinese body clock. And that would be, different patterns that we're going to look at in terms of blood sugar or cortisol, your gut microbiome, and histamine. So strap in today if you know somebody who is struggling with sleep. They're waking up constantly, right? And tossing and turning, having trouble falling back asleep, getting that good, deep, restful sleep. This episode's for them. So go
Yes.
to whatever app you use and share it, copy the link, send them a text, let them know, hey, this episode is for you if you are struggling with your
Yeah.
sleep, because you cannot recover and you can't expect to feel good. All right, if you're dealing with water retention, you're waking up puffy, your ankles or your wrists are really swollen, or you can't get your rings off, and maybe you're even dragging throughout the day, no matter how much water you drink, there's actually a good chance that you're not actually hydrating properly.
Exactly. Because water alone is not enough. You need electrolytes. You need sodium, potassium, magnesium, because those things actually pull water into your cells. Otherwise, you're basically just flushing it out and wondering why you're still tired, you're still bloated, and you're still sluggish.
But here's the thing, most electrolyte supplements out there aren't helping you in any way, because a lot of them contain things like natural flavors, food dyes, and maltodextrin, which can irritate your gut. And these things can also spike your blood sugar when you're trying to heal.
That's why we both started using Buoy. It's super simple, just trace minerals and electrolytes in liquid form. No flavors, no colors, no sugar, no sweeteners, and you squeeze it into whatever you are drinking: water, coffee, tea, smoothies, you name it.
And it's clinically backed by science too. So studies have shown that Buoy helps you hydrate better, 64% better in fact, and that's data coming from key blood and urinary markers, not just marketing fluff. And honestly, you can feel the difference. I've had many clients tell me their digestion's improved, they have less headaches, and they're better energy throughout the day.
And Buoy isn't just for people that go to the gym all the time and sweat a bunch. They actually offer a 35% lifetime discount for anyone that's struggling with chronic illnesses. Things like POTS, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, chronic migraines, and every autoimmune condition. They're really committed to making better hydration accessible to people who need it most.
I actually throw it in my coffee every morning because it's such an easy upgrade. You don't even taste it, but you're definitely gonna notice if you miss it.
If you're tired of playing hydration roulette and want something that actually supports your body, you've got to try Buoy. It's honestly one of the simplest ways to feel better faster.
Like, I think that sleep deprivation is by far one of the worst feelings, especially if it's ongoing like that. Really, just like, I don't even know how to describe
Debilitating.
it. It's your whole body that just
Yes.
feels like it's shutting down when you are
Yes. Yeah. I feel so like I sleep typically is one of the first things we try to fix. Sometimes it everyone's sleep situation is a little different. Like it's kind of everyone needs their own cocktail of what we need to fix and what's going wrong, and it can be a process sometimes. And it's a little bit of like educated guessing, depending on how much data we can get on that person. Like, can they wear a CGM overnight? Can how much blood work do we have on the person? What kind of testing do we have on the person? So it can be tough. But we wanted to separate this into what time of night you're waking up, and then at the end, we'll talk about like if you're waking up constantly throughout the night, it's probably a combination of some of these things, if we're being honest. But talking about the top players in each of these sections of when you are waking up. So we're going to start from earliest of the night to latest of the night. Okay. So if you are waking up relatively soon after you fall asleep, we're talking like 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. So you're troubling, the trouble of staying asleep early in the night. One, we look at cortisol spikes too soon. So if the adrenals are overactive at night from like a chronic stress situation and inflammation or under eating during the day can cause this, which is why sometimes having a small snack before bed can be like an easy little workaround for some people. Easy thing to implement. It's free. You can figure out if like it is your blood sugars or it is your electrolytes. Sometimes if you're having a low blood sugar rebound, this can happen. So if dinner was too light in protein or not enough fats or not enough calories, or it's too early in the evening, I do agree that it's ideal in a healthy person to eat dinner earlier in the evening. It allows for better digestion. It's not as stressful on the body overnight. So like I think that that is a good thing to do and accomplish. But we're talking about sick people. We're talking about people that are dysfunctional here. Okay. So if you ate too early, you can and your blood sugars are not good at being stable yet, you can end up with a blood sugar crash, which then prompts adrenaline and cortisol to rise to try and keep blood sugar stable. So again, your body's trying to fight for you. It's trying to be like, "Hey, I'm getting this huge blood sugar crash, but I don't want you to go hypoglycemic overnight, so I'm going to bring cortisol up." But guess what? That cortisol wakes you up. Gut activity is a big one, and this will kind of be throughout the night too, I would say, but parasites or dysbiosis, especially candida, can be more active in this early sleep window and trigger internal alarm signals, especially around full moons. Watch the full moons.
Mhm.
And then histamine. I would say histamine's probably the biggest one at this time of night. This is what I see at least. People wake up and they have like heart palpitations or they have anxiety, because histamine release peaks at night. It's like histamine. We actually talked about this on our previous podcast on Friday. Histamine is a wake promoting neurotransmitter. So if someone has histamine intolerance or a high histamine load or mast cell, they'll essentially pop awake soon after falling asleep because inside your brainstem, specifically the tuberomammillary, that is a mouthful. I think I got it right. Tuberomammillary nucleus of the hypothalamus, there's a small cluster of neurons whose main job is to release histamine into the brain specifically. So those neurons are part of your RAS, your reticular activating system, and the same system that keeps you alert and responsive. So when histamine binds to its receptors, the H1, H2, H3 on the other neurons, it stimulates this activity, which creates these wake alerted or wake related neurons, and it inhibits sleep promoting centers. So that is why antihistamines are drowsy. Benadryl makes you sleepy because they block these H1 receptors in the brain. Histamine release equals alertness, focus, and arousal. So in a normal person, it follows a circadian rhythm, but in overload, it's on all the time and it will suppress your REM sleep. So that is another thing. If you're getting really low levels of REM sleep overnight, you might be dealing with a histamine issue, you might be dealing with a cortisol issue. Other symptoms can be chronic nasal stuffiness or runny nose, allergies, itchiness, nausea, anxiety, headaches or migraines, brain fog, constipation or bloating. But I see the histamine piece be a huge one. We'll talk about at the end like solutions for each of these sections, but an easy one that you can kind of like figure out, is it a histamine issue? Take an antihistamine before bed.
Yeah, and that'll be a telltale indicator that that is what you're dealing with more than anything else. Because again, a lot of this stuff could cross over, right?
Mhm.
One of the things that I think about is just with this histamine, it dumps at nighttime, right? And then when you think about to your brain, as your brain starts to detoxify, that is going to, stimulate the immune system and all of this is going on. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm tired and wired and I just, cannot fall asleep. Very commonly, we hear from our women 3 a.m. wake ups. I know that that's what our team has told me time and time again when they're talking to people about our program. They're like, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. So there's a lot of things that can be going on here. And I think one of the things that I want to just mention that would kind of go hand in hand with any time that you're waking up is the immune system's response to the body trying to detoxify, and it's getting stimulated, right? Therefore, cortisol is being elevated. If your blood sugar is bouncing all around, you're going to see that response. So the immune system is very active in the nighttime. That's the time that you repair, you rebuild, you detoxify. Your body goes through these cleansing processes. And so it may not just be one thing. It might be a multitude of things that we are, dealing with here. But traditionally, parasites are very active at 3 a.m. Okay. They between 1 and 3 a.m. is when your liver and your main detoxification of the liver is happening. So you have your gallbladder that's happening a little bit earlier on, and then it's going to the liver. So if we look at the Chinese medicine clock, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is the gallbladder, strongly tied to the liver, though that cleanses then again at 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. The emotions around this, which I think are just really interesting between 11 and 1 a.m., is indecisiveness. So I always think of this as like if you're having trouble falling asleep and then your mind is kind of racing, we can have this GABA and glutamate, imbalance as well that could be going on here. But this indecisiveness, right? You're thinking about all the things that happen in your day, this decision that you have to make. This could have other symptoms that go along with it as well. So frequent sighing, rash decisions, so like impulse decisions, poor judgment, difficulty making those decisions. Again, shyness, you're timid, high cholesterol, resentment can be here as well, weak tendons, and also tendonitis. So the gallbladder stores and excretes bile to facilitate proper digestion. It also rules the decision-making process, controls and tendons, and governs dreams, which is interesting. So here's where we would think about if you have a liver gallbladder issue, right? Thinking, especially before bedtime, avoiding alcohol, trans fats, spicy foods, high fats as well. 1 to 3 a.m. with the liver, emotions tied to this are going to be anger and irritability. So we know that the liver is the main detoxifier of the body, and it processes a lot of emotions at nighttime as well. The liver stores the blood and governs the QI of the body. So this is associated with tendons, nails, and eyes. So think back to a night when you had too much to drink for a period of intense frustration at work. Did you wake up around 1 to 3 a.m. and then unable to fall back asleep? From that functional Chinese perspective, liver is overloaded and struggling to do its work. So other symptoms of imbalance, just kind of watch out for, is explosive outbursts of anger, bottled up emotions, resentment, irritability, moodiness, frustration, high blood pressure, chest distension, PMS, bitter taste in mouth, digestive upset, dizziness, migraines, breast tenderness, blurred visions, eye floaters, red face, tendonitis, and frequent sighing. So a lot of these you think can cross over, right? So a lot of those can cross over with histamine issues. Estrogen is a histamine accelerator as well. So like hormones could be playing a role. So we're not saying that everything is going to be just this one thing. And so that's where you have to come in and kind of think, okay, what's going on? How is this cyclical as well? Because some people we see when estrogen is rising around ovulation or after your period, they're going to start to see this more. And then, okay, that maybe is something going on with histamine, but also exacerbated by, estrogen. So the pattern here too could be that you are waking up sweaty, thirsty, you're hot, you can't fall back asleep. And again, sometimes you're having vivid dreams.
Yep. So next up is the waking up between 3 a.m. to 4:30. So this is kind of in the Chinese medicine world a little bit more like lungs. So deep sleep typically happens here. Your lung detoxification can happen here, and then the large intestine to an extent, which is why you should wake up and have a bowel movement typically within the first couple hours of the morning, because that's the time that the large intestine is supposed to detoxify. But what we see in other realms is more the adrenal and cortisol dysregulation, because this is when cortisol naturally begins to rise. So typically around 4:30 a.m. is in a healthy circadian rhythm, cortisol will begin to rise. It kind of gets you that get ready to wake signal. And if your adrenals are overstressed or out of rhythm, that rise can happen too early or too sharply. And so we often see this with burnout, with chronic stress, or perimenopause, because low progesterone kind of removes that GABA calm that should be happening overnight. You can also see the blood sugar dips overnight that can cause a trigger to cortisol surge around this time also. And it can be a thyroid adrenal mismatch. So the body struggles to maintain temperature and energy balance at night. And so people will wake up and they will have, racing thoughts, they'll have hunger. They may not be able to fall back asleep until like 5 a.m. and then their alarm goes off at 5:30. That's a lot of times we see more cortisol and adrenal related at this time. And then the last one is more waking up in that very like you wake up an hour before your alarm, right? That's the worst. Like you wake up, your alarm's supposed to go off at 5:15, you wake up at 4:30. So the last one is this 4:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. So this is again kind of this early cortisol spike or low thyroid metabolic tone. And this is the false morning pattern. So you wake up before the alarm, you feel maybe restless or hot, but you don't feel refreshed. So you slept through the night, but you woke up a little early and you're not feeling energized, right? And so cortisol again rises too early. Low thyroid function or low metabolic rate basically causes the body temperature to drop, which can cause this trigger or an early wake up. This is why I love very simple tool. Test your basal body temperature first thing in the morning. Get a basal thermometer, put it next to your bed, test it as soon as you wake up before you get out of bed. It should be about 97.4, 97.5, or higher. If you are lower than that, we're looking at low thyroid function, we're looking at low metabolic function. It's a really cheap, easy tool to know what is your metabolism doing. And then sometimes low melatonin or inflammation will push the circadian rhythm forward. And so again, you feel tired mid-morning. So like that 8 a.m., 9 a.m. hits and you're exhausted. You often see this link with blood sugar or HPA dysregulation. And we see this a lot of times females that have chronic stress or immune activation, their blood sugars are high in the morning. So they may not have really high A1Cs or they may not have really dysregulated blood sugars around meals, but when they wake up, their blood sugars are high. And it's usually because there's a lot of liver dumping of the glycogen to try and keep the immune system active and trying essentially to keep the cortisol rhythm regulated. And we'll see hundreds, low 100s, 110 first thing in the morning for a lot of these females. So like we said, random or multiple wake ups throughout the night can be gut dysbiosis parasites, can be electrolyte imbalances, can be cortisol, can be hormonal shifts, can be histamine. So you got to kind of evaluate all of it. But let's talk about some things you can do. Like what with each of these, what can you put in place to try and support?
So when we're thinking about the 10 to 12 timeframe, so one, I would say here is where you really want to focus heavily on your circadian rhythm. You want morning sunlight on your eyeballs. If you live in a place like we do, where it's now dark early in the morning, you want to get a 10,000 lux light. And so I would do like the happy light from Amazon. That's a great one. But we really want to make sure that we are getting that early morning cortisol awakening response. You can stimulate that with the 10,000 lux light, right? We've talked about histamine release, so you could try the antihistamines. We've talked about low blood sugar. You could be doing something like a healthy fat and protein before dinner, something to give you that long, burning, sustained energy. And then again, look at what's going on with your detox pathways and with your gut. So we know that the gut kind of resets itself like overnight as well. So before bed, could you be doing things like binders? Could you be doing things like Epsom salt baths? Something that's really gentle to help you kind of wind down, calm your central nervous system down, but also gently support your gut and detoxification. You can do box breathing here, a brain dump, like with journaling. If you are somebody who really struggles with that, can't shut my brain off and that go, go, go mentality, I would, keep a journal by your bedside. We also really like phosphatidylserine. So this could be great to even take maybe at dinner time if your cortisol is high in the evening time. If you feel that your environment at home is very stressful, maybe you have children who are just a lot, and nighttime is a challenge. Bedtime is a challenge. I would consider putting something like this phosphatidylserine in because I think that can really help you and your nervous system, but also maybe pair that with like a magnesium glycinate or L-threonate to calm the nervous system. Glycine can be another good thing here. 2 to 3 grams is kind of the upper limit. I would even say if you're somebody who is new to this, start low, like 500 milligrams, and then maybe work your way up to that. Of course, when we think about the histamine response, think about your dinner time. Is it a fresh made dinner or are you eating leftovers? A lot of times histamine rises in leftovers. So I would think about that in terms of, your protein sources. I would avoid alcohol, chocolate, fermented food, or things that are again more on that, histamine triggering side. There's a lot of histamine related foods. So you need to just kind of look that up. But even things like avocado can be, triggering here. So just remembering that you want to have that balanced dinner, but maybe go on the low histamine side if you feel that that's a trigger for you. The sleep environment, right, is really important as well. So you start your sleep in the morning time. Okay. So your morning routine matters a ton for your evening routine. So that's where the 10,000 lux light is going to come into play, but also at the same time, dim your lights. Maybe put some blue light blockers on if you're going to be watching TV or things like that, working on your computer. I would say at least for the hour before bed, really try to get rid of the screens. And again, there you could do your journaling or pray or meditate or whatever. Reading a book could be great. Keep your room dark as possible. You don't want to have a lot of these lights, especially like blue lights from phones and things like that. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, don't get on your phone. A lot of people do that. It's crazy to me because you're just telling your eyeballs, right? It's time to wake up. Keep your room cool. If you don't have really good sheets, we both love Cozy Earth. They have some great cooling sheets. You could use things like an Ooler, which is like a cooling pad underneath your sheets. You could, put a fan or some sort of cooling device in your bedroom. If your bedroom's like mine, that's all the way upstairs and heat rises, we don't have a second air conditioning unit. So that's really important just in terms of your sleep um, temperature. But the last thing I'm going to say here on your nighttime routine, you need to be consistent. Like if you are working through this, there's really no wiggle room. I would stop having a different bedtime every night. And I would really try to get in bed within the same 30 minutes. And it may take you a little while to adjust to this, but that routine is going to be really important. And then I also would say that your bedroom should be inviting. It should be a place that you want to go. Make it cozy. Whatever that looks like for you, I don't know, but for me, like that's a sacred place. So we don't have a TV in our bedroom. We have, nice bedding. It's quality bedding. I look forward to getting into my bed. And so again, whatever you might need to do from an investment standpoint to make that more of a cozy, warm, welcoming, or you want it to be cool actually, but a welcoming environment, do that because your nighttime routine is going to play a big role in how your body also feels in that space. If you walk into your bedroom and it's trashed, you have clothes all over the floor, it's not been cleaned, and you got dust everywhere and just crap everywhere, that's not a really warm, inviting place. So
Mhm.
maybe consider that as well. You could also do some um, essential oils, right? Some calming lavender. You could put that in terms of like a diffuser in your room. You could rub it on the bottom of your feet, some magnesium lotion. There's a lot of things that you could do, but nighttime routine is very important. And then follow that up with that morning routine 10,000 lux lights, get daylight on your eyes as soon as you can.
Yeah. So, in terms of supplementation, obviously some different things, some similarities that can help in each of these situations. But that histamine issue we talked about, you can do like a DAO enzyme before bed. You can do something like a histamine digest, histamine nutrients that has the nutrients that help break down and detoxify. Trimethylglycine also helps support that pathway in high doses. Um, Liz already mentioned the phosphatidylserine can be really helpful if it's cortisol, stress driven. Glycine can be helpful, but you gotta be careful with glycine because some people, if they have mold, if they have mycotoxin, if they have SIBO, and they have high oxalate levels, glycine can actually worsen that. And so you gotta be a little bit careful with glycine intake, but glycine or magnesium glycinate can calm the nervous system. If you are that 1 to 3 a.m., we're looking more at magnesium and taurine. So, magnesium and taurine together help relax the liver gallbladder and support the nervous system. B complexes, methyl free to aid that phase one, phase two liver detoxification, calcium D-glucarate potentially, milk thistle, TUDCA, NAC, all of those are great because remember the 1 to 3 a.m. is the liver blood sugar window. So, that tends to be that you want to support the liver in that window. The 3 to 4:30 a.m. is that adrenal issue, that rhythm, that cortisol surge. So here, the phosphatidylserine could be good. That port ease or just straight phosphatidylserine, adaptogens earlier in the day. So something that we talk a lot about when it comes to sleep is that you need to have the thought of I need to exhaust the body during the day, right? I need to make sure the mitochondria are working. I need to make sure that my ATP is producing during the day. And so sometimes you need something like a Mito Boost Ultra. You need adaptogens. You need something that's going to regulate adrenals during the day so that you're tired at night, right? So that can be really helpful. GABA or L-theanine for racing thoughts can be helpful here, or bioidentical progesterone can sometimes be supportive. And then that 4:30 to 6 a.m. is going to be similar when it comes to adrenal supports. So, electrolytes before bed is another really simple, cheap, easy thing to put in place you could try. Thyroid and liver nutrients, selenium, zinc, potentially microdosing melatonin, so like zero point 0.3 to 1 milligram, or the magnesium can be here as well, right? So we saw a lot of crossover in terms of supplementation. Magnesium is a crossover, glycine is a crossover, myo-inositol can help sometimes with blood sugar regulation overnight. Phosphatidylserine was a big crossover. So there's a lot of things that are potentially going to help many different issues that you could try. But at the end of the day, what I always say when it comes to sleep is like you have to figure out why it's a problem. You have to figure out the root issue versus just supplementing and supplementing and supplementing because essentially you're doing no better than like a band-aid of a benzo or some type of
Mhm.
Xanax that you're taking to just like get yourself to knock out, right? We want sleep to be restorative, we want it to be helpful, we want it to be healing, and when you are just drugging yourself to sleep, it's not really those things. So figure out why it's happening, but this hopefully will help you start to figure that out and then take the best actions.